It says it's recording on my end.
I think it's working.
Yeah,
All right, bro. Yeah, we're just 6 minutes late. Had to wait up on you, per usual.
that's right, because they're running my
Per
time.
usual. Per usual. Per usual. Everybody coming in, listening to the Approach Pod. It's my guy, Trey Faltine of the Cincinnati Reds, 2022 seventh round draft pick. University of Texas Longhorn. Wearing his Iron Mike Tyson t-shirt and all. But Trey, where you at, man? You back in Houston or you in Austin?
Not yet. I'm actually in New Orleans right now. I'm driving back from Ohio, so I stopped, made a little detour, had some little fun on bourbon, and did a little gambling. So
What you doing? Yeah, bro. What you doing in New Orleans, huh? What you doing
had
in
to
New
stop by
Orleans?
and have some fun before I go back home. You know how it is.
What? Dating ain't enough fun for you?
No fun there.
Just baseball, baby. Just them
Just
dragons.
baseball. This is what I do. Baseball. That's all I do.
Just them dragons, baby. Just some
That's right.
dragons.
That's right.
Some dragons. What are you doing this off? What are you doing this off season, man?
I'm gonna be back in Austin. I'm finishing school. So I'll be in Austin. I start school like middle of September. Well, I just started school actually. So this coming week I'll start school. And then I'll be in Austin, working on stuff back in school and obviously, finishing up school and stuff like that. So it'll kind of be a busy off season for me.
Feel you, man. What are you finishing your degree in?
Corporate communications. So I have like about a semester ish left. So I'm knocking out some classes right now online. I'll be done hopefully by next fall. So we'll see how it goes. If I stay on track and don't get sidetracked, we'll see.
Boss, you getting sidetracked, dog. Come on. You
I'm
talking
hope
about?
my plan is next fall, so we'll see how it goes. That's my goal is next fall.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I shouldn't have asked, man. I mean, how you talk and how much you talk. I know you were a communication master's kind of guy or degree kind of guy. So
For sure. All you
I
gotta do
didn't,
is
I didn't,
I asked what's a good major, and they said, I gotta do the right papers and stuff for this one. So I was locked in every single time with this one.
that's right. There you go, man. There you go. So Trey and I, yeah. So Trey's gonna have to be asking me for the entry code into the Texas Longhorn clubhouse this off season. Coach Schlossnagel's over there. He already gave me the thumbprint just to
No, he
get in
didn't.
there, lift, work out.
No.
So Trey's gonna be having to pick up after me, the weight room and all that good stuff when I head over there and take over. So
I already told you you're not allowed in there. You got no chance in there. If you went to another school, you got no chance in our locker room.
man, you couldn't last a day as an
You're right, 'cause I hate it there. You're right. I couldn't last a day.
Aggie. Whatever. Whatever. So yeah, Trey and I, we played against each other in college. Actually, both my freshman and sophomore year before I transferred to Texas A&M. I was at Arizona State, came there in a regional. We got it handed to us. We lost like 10-3. Trey was playing shortstop at the time. It was his first year in Omaha. And then the next year, had to go to A&M, switch it up, go with them Aggies, the big school in Texas, the big dogs, and we had to whoop up on the little brother down in Austin. So had to play Trey both times in Omaha and down there in Austin. But yeah, man, it was a good time. So Trey, just wanted to talk to you about your upbringing, man, your family before we get into everything. Just for the people listening, for the people from Austin, College Station, really all over, just kind of where you're from. You know, I've gotten to know you really well just because, yeah, I mentioned earlier, we got the chance to be roommates, become really good buddies in professional baseball. But just kind of where you're from, your background, family, all that good stuff. You can go as far back as you want.
Yeah, I grew up in Houston. I grew up in if anyone's familiar with Houston, I grew up in small town Richmond, kind of southwest of Houston. Grew up there. I have three brothers, three younger brothers. I'm the oldest. So everything, they were all boys. So everything was sports and super competitive. So my dad obviously was super competitive, played sports himself. So growing up, with them, it was, if you're not doing something, you were getting left behind by your brothers. It wasn't even about other people or friends. It was my brothers, the biggest competition. And I think they look up to me the most, and I look up to them the most. Those are the kind of guys that we grew up playing wiffle ball, baseball in the front yard, in the backyard with the neighbors like that. So that's where some of my best, I'd say, baseball memories or just memories of sports in general. With my brothers. So they're big to me and huge, and obviously my family is too. Just super tight knit. Our dad was our coach, all my brothers coached and stuff like that. So we really got to build that bond together. And I think my dad's seen probably more baseball games than anybody else. And he's been to. I've seen him wake up, go to 2 baseball games, coach that, drive to another baseball game, coach those two, and uh, he's just a grinder. Man. So you know,
Yeah.
to be able to have that, that role model for all of us growing up was huge. I think that shows in our everyday lives. All three of my brothers, one played basketball in college, and then me and my brother played in college as well. And then my youngest brother is a sophomore this year in high school, so he's kind of going through that phase of life of trying to get recruited and where he wants to go and stuff like that, and the showcase stuff. So he's on that last run with my youngest brother going through all that stuff and stuff like that.
No doubt. And the other thing that I thought was interesting that I didn't know about you was that you're actually your father is Venezuelan, and that was something that I didn't know. And just talk to us about how that's kind of shaped you into who you are. Just because like nobody I've ever met in my entire life, and there have been multiple people that I've heard say this. You have an ability to blend in like a chameleon to any group around you, and I think it's one of the coolest skills that I've ever seen. Talk to us about your father and just the role and the role he had and to develop that characteristic, in just terms of being able to obviously literally speak Spanish and talk to groups of teammates that you and I play with that I can't speak fluently to. How that's benefited you in your role in your life growing up.
Yeah, it's huge. Like you said, a lot of people don't, they don't know I'm Hispanic until, they talk to me or, someone speaks Spanish and then they kind of find out. And it's a total shock for most people, honestly. And the same thing with my dad. Obviously, like you said, my dad grew up in Venezuela. And he moved here when he's probably 25-ish. So he's been here a while. And the same thing, people don't realize he's Venezuelan until, like, he has a little bit of an accent now, but, it's almost, he's been here so long, it's kind of got rid of it. So, like, people are like, well, the funniest things ever growing up was like, someone would be talking behind us in Spanish, or like someone would be saying something to my dad, he'd turn around and start speaking Spanish, and the faces they would make were unbelievable. And it was like the funniest thing ever. So like, we always hide that we spoke Spanish because, like, someone's talking about you, or you don't want people to know, and then all of a sudden they're saying something about you, like you can just talk back to them, and it just the faces that like we used to get were unreal. So that's kind of like one of the funny things. I never really tell people I speak Spanish until I need to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it's huge. I think you growing up, obviously spoke Spanish with my parents and like that. My grandparents, they spoke, little to no English, so it was all Spanish with them. So, about that, like the chameleon thing, I think that probably came from, obviously having, my brothers all have, different sorts of friends and playing baseball. Obviously, there's so many different cultures in baseball and different
Yeah.
people that you need, from all kinds of, backgrounds like that. So I think my ability, to just kind of talk to everybody and be friends with everybody, just, playing travel ball. You have a guy that you just met last week that's from, San Antonio, and you've never met him. You got to, try to be his teammate for the weekend and find a way to be his friend. So I think my ability, to do that came from a pretty early stage in life of just, having to meet new teammates and, my brother's teammates and, having friends from school, my brother's friends from school, and having just, meet a whole bunch of different people and having that ability to just kind of, make friends with anybody. I probably would say that, it came from that and just how I grew up with a lot of people around me in life with sports, stuff like that. So, um, yeah, it's different. The culture, obviously, like you said, man, pro ball definitely benefits me because I can talk to guys that most guys maybe not be able to talk to just because of that language barrier. So it's a huge thing, something that I'm kind of fortunate to have and have that ability to be able to talk to teammates and stuff like that. Like, coach, they're saying something in English or vice versa. I can translate for the English guys or for the
Yeah.
Spanish guys. So it's kind of a cool thing to be able to do and kind of be in between for those people that do have that barrier and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, it's a valuable skill. It's a really valuable skill that not only baseball organizations value, but especially nowadays, just with how big communication is in the world, just have the ability to have somebody in your organization or in your business that is bilingual, and so bilingual to be fluent in both languages. It's really a skill. And not only that, kind of like you touched on, the other part of it too is just I was talking with someone the other day, like people just straight up, it seemed to have forgotten to how to have a conversation. Excuse me, how to have a
Yeah.
conversation, and just to be able to speak to different people that aren't necessarily from your walk of life. And I think that a big part of that is just accredited to just how much we're on our phones. I was at the airport the other day, and this family, I mean, like feel like you hear stuff about this all the time, but you go to a restaurant and everybody's on their phones, and I acknowledge that. And it's just like you try to have a conversation with somebody in line and they look at you like you're crazy because it's just not something that is done particularly often anymore. But just being around you, I've definitely learned to be able to have the freedom to just kind of relearn how to have the ability to speak to somebody that I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to have a conversation with, and to be open to meeting new people and be able to engaging in understanding people's different walks of life the way that you are able to. So I've definitely admired that from the time we've known each other. So yeah, man. So you touched on your dad a little bit. So your mom, just from talking to you about it a little bit, is from Houston.
No, I was actually from a small town in South Texas called Weslaco. It's probably 10 minutes from the border. My grandma and grandpa, they grew up in a small town. My grandpa grew up in Reynosa, Mexico, and my grandma's from this. It's probably 6, 7 hours, like in the middle of Texas, in the middle of Mexico. It's called Zacatecas. It's like in the mountains. It's very. They both grew up very poor. They came here, working and just trying to find jobs and do everything they could to support their family. So my mom grew up, kind of on the rougher end, growing up with her. She has two brothers, so my two uncles. She's older, so she kind of grew up, on the rougher side, having to, persevere through that. And I think one of the things that has really stuck out to me is that my mom, grew up and her parents didn't speak any English at all. So going to school for her was something that she had to do on her own, and she couldn't have the help of her parents. Where I feel like some people are, you growing up here in America, like you have your parents that can, go to parent teacher meetings with you, or go to conferences with the teachers, or talk to the teacher for you. My mom didn't have any of that, so she had to grow up on her own and basically figure out everything on her own. Which that's why she's everything she's done is honestly just remarkable. She did it literally all by herself from a young age. Even my uncles too. So I think that's one thing that I look up to my mom for sure, because she had to do everything on her own. She couldn't ask her parents for help on homework. She had to figure it out herself, and she got excuse me, her whole, she got through high school, went to college, got academic scholarship all on her own, didn't have to pay for school. She got, she was super, super smart. Now she's in the education, and she, preaches education to, all her kids. And that's one of the main reasons why, I went to Texas. She wanted me to, have a really good education. And that's something that she preached me from a very young age. Your grades are super important. And, you know, baseball or sports it can take you a long way, but it won't take you everywhere, so you got to have education to back that up. And at the time, obviously in high school, middle school, your mom's always on you about school and you kind of hate it and whatever. But, looking back on it as I get older and more mature, like you really start to appreciate, what your parents did for you and what they were trying to, preach to you at a young age, and the things they were trying to get out of you. So, I was very fortunate and very blessed to have, both my parents in my life that, wanted the best for me and gave me every opportunity possible to, be as successful as I could and do the things that I want to do in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely takes a village. It takes a village. I mean, that's remarkable that your mother did that on her own, but it definitely, I've learned just from my own parents in terms of their stories and my own personal experience. My dad's dad was a trucker, and he was kind of in that same boat where he had his family, or he had his brothers and sister, but other than that, he didn't really have anybody. So I think just him instilling that value in me, just kind of like you're saying, and the idea that, hey man, like it really, there is a lot of it where it is very self-empowering to be able to do it yourself. And, I draw a lot of admiration, you know, to my dad, just in the sense of that, and my mom too, in the sense of how they were able to do that. But the idea of being able to have a village of support, it does make all the difference. And from what it sounds like is that when you have the three brothers of yours and your mother and father who have come from these incredibly just different backgrounds, that of hard work and resilience and toughness, that it does make it a lot easier, when you get older, to understand the values of, how important those things were when you were a kid. And you may not have understood it when you were younger, but, you definitely, as you get older, you appreciate it, and you learn to appreciate it a lot more. So that's awesome,
For
man.
sure.
So,
Yeah, no
so,
doubt,
um,
for sure.
was it only baseball for you, or did you play other sports growing up?
Growing up, I played football, baseball, and basketball. Basketball is just kind of like a thing, you know. I wouldn't say I love basketball. I kind of just did like, I had three brothers, so in the backyard we had a goal, so we played basketball all the time. So we kind of just played basketball, and I played in middle school, but nothing really, too crazy. Never played AAU, but football and baseball was really like where my heart was at. I really, really loved football, honestly. I wanted to play, but I think I would have kept playing. But in high school, I got to high school my freshman year, and our coach was talking about, I wanted to obviously make varsity and be on the varsity team as a freshman, stuff like that. Stuff was kind of important to me. I wanted be competing with high level players and guys who are a little bit older than me. Um, my coach kind of told me basically that if I played football, I wouldn't have as good of a chance as to make varsity. So I obviously love baseball more than football. So I was like, okay, football's not that important to me. And then I kind of left it to baseball. And then my dad, I think when I was around eighth grade or freshman year, had a talk with me, about if you want to do something, you got to be all in on it. So I think that's when he had that talk to me, just talking to me about hey, look, if you want to be a baseball player in the high level and do the things that you say you want to do, like you really got to lock in and basically try to perfect your craft from starting now, starts now. So he's like, football, it's cool to play football, but if that's not what you want to do and do both, like you really need to lock in on baseball and take it serious and work out and do all the right things that you need to be, you know, to do the things you want to do, go to college, be a pro athlete, stuff like that. So once I had that talk, it kind of definitely matured a little bit and was like, hey, I do like baseball a lot, and this is what I see myself playing the most. Um, so I was like, no more football. I didn't want to risk, having football. It's a crazy sport. You can get freak injuries all the time, man. If
Yeah.
I had an injury in football and missed baseball, I knew it would really bother me. So, um, I was like, I'm not gonna play football, and that's when I really started to focus. I say high school, like that eighth grade transition going into high school, the freshman year. I think that's when things started changing for me, and I really got. I'd say those like the biggest gap I felt in my development was once I made that decision to stop playing football and just really locking in baseball. I think that's when I made that biggest jump and growth in my development.
So yeah, that was going to be my next question. So yeah, that was. I was going to say, when was there ever a time for baseball? I mean, always from a young age. I mean, you were always, from what I understand, pretty dang athletic, and you were always, gifted in that regard. And I've always seen you, and I even saw you in high school, just because when you would do the perfect game stuff or the USA stuff, I followed that, and I got to not I didn't know anything about you, but I would see your name, and I saw your name at Texas when I played you at Arizona when I was at Arizona State. So was there ever a time where when you were younger where there were adversities, or there were big adversities, because I know there were for me, in the sense of, hey, like, because I know the further we get down your baseball career, yes, there are adversities to come, and we'll get to that. But when you were younger, in those middle school, elementary school years, was there ever a moment where football may have been the decision, and maybe going down that route just because baseball may not have looked as strong, or was it always pretty firmly baseball?
Honestly, I'd say it was probably 50-50. I remember growing up, I played, running back. I obviously played quarterback, playing baseball, and everyone thought, okay, he plays baseball and has a good arm, but I really couldn't throw the football as good as I could throw a baseball. I really, like, if you were to look at me throw a football, you'd be like, yeah, this guy doesn't have a good arm, but so I really played running back and receiver as like fourth, fifth grade. And then once I got to middle school, I played running back and receiver. And honestly, for a while, a lot of people told me that I'd be a better football player than I was in baseball. And I didn't necessarily believe it, but it was kind of, in my mind, like, maybe I am, good at football and I can take this thing, to try and play high school and college. Then I went back to the thing, my dad was always very honest with me about, my sports. And I think that's something that I appreciate from him. He's never like kind of let me just do what I want. He always, made me think a little bit harder about my decisions. So like I said earlier, once it came to that spot where he's like, okay, you can play football. I'm not saying you can't play football, but if you have a baseball tournament, a football, a 7-on-7, which one would you rather go to? I was like, I'd rather go to baseball. He's like, okay, so then that's where your heart's at, that's where your mind's at, that's what you really need to focus on. That's where he's like, he was one of those people like, he know how this is, man. Like if your heart's not truly into something, the moment you hit the slightest bit of adversity, you're gonna quit. You're not gonna want to do anymore, and it's not gonna be something that's fun. It's the things that you really, really want to do that you can withstand those adversities and go through those trials and tribulations to really find that end goal. And I feel like for me that was where my heart was at with baseball. So that made me pick baseball. And then growing up, I'd probably say my first adversity with baseball, if I had to think, was probably when I was 12. I wanted to make the USA team. That was a big goal of mine. And they had like tryouts around the country, and they had the tryouts
Yeah.
in Houston. Um, and I, did pretty well, I thought, and, pitched good and stuff like that. And then, they sent out like the list, they put it like on YouTube or whatever, like, online, and they pull out the list. And I want to say they were taking 18 kids, and I was like number nine. I was the first like alternate, so I was number 19. I think if it was 18, I was number 19, or if they took 19, I was 20, whatever it was. And I was the first alternate. So basically, like if anyone got hurt or someone got the flu, anything like that, like I would be that kid to replace them. And I never, and obviously everyone was fine, and they went. I want to say they went to Taiwan. They won gold. There's a lot of good players on that team, but for me, that really bothered me that I wasn't one of those guys. So I feel like that's when I really started to take baseball even more seriously, and that really kind of bothered me a little bit that I didn't make that team because I knew there were some guys. You have played travel ball, you played different players, stuff like that.
Right.
And there were some guys that felt that weren't really better than me, and they didn't bring as much value to the team that I felt like I could have. So that really bothered me a lot, and that's when I started to really lock in. I made a goal for the 15 year that I was going to make this team, and I was not going to be denied. So I started working on, started training. My dad had a net in he had like this long driveway. He built like a little mini net, and he'd flip to me every day. And we hit, we always talk about 1,000 swings. So we go after school or in the morning before school, take 500 swings, and after school do another 500, two all 1,000 at night. He rolled me ground balls. Like I was super determined to make it work basically. And obviously I had the chance to go back when I was 15 to Cary, North Carolina, compete for a spot in the team, and I eventually did. So when I found out I made that team, that was a super rewarding experience and something that
Yeah.
I was very grateful because I knew the last kind of 3 years I've been building up to it, and my mind was set. I got to make this team basically.
No, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean yeah, it can happen at any age, man. It doesn't necessarily matter the context. I mean, whether it be for a guy that is trying to make Team USA or for a guy that's trying to make his, I don't know, rec league team. I mean,
Yeah,
it really is applicable. And, that's basically kind of the story that, I mean, you've kind of set forth in pro ball or just being around me is, and things haven't always in the last couple of years gone your way, but it's been refreshing to see in an age of instant gratification and things how people want the quick fix and want things to change instantly, how you've gone about your business just being around you this last year and really last year and a half since I've known you. Because a lot of people, man, when things don't go their way, it's really easy to just kind of just fold and shut it down and all that stuff. But I thought it was interesting how you said earlier, it's if you don't have the passion for something, if you don't really love something, you're going to fold and you're going to give up as soon as trouble or adversity hits. And it's not necessarily what you say you're going to do, it's about what you do when those things happen. And yeah, man, I mean, I think that's awesome. That's really good stuff for any young listeners or even older listeners or anything of the sort. So you get to high school, you make the 15U team. You go to high school, coming in, you're now solely focused on baseball. So talk to us a little bit about the experience with high school baseball, travel ball, and in your early freshman sophomore years.
yeah. So travel ball, I played with the Banditos, which is right in Houston, which is a really really good organization. We had a lot of great players and guys that are playing pro ball or even in the big leagues now. So
Yep.
it's super competitive. I got to play with a lot of really good players, so I feel like that really helped me kind of see where I saw myself fit against other guys that are really, really good, and kind of helped me see what areas of my game I need to grow and stuff like that. As far as high schools, I think the one thing for me is I've always been blessed, within my sports world to always be around really good players and be on really good teams. I never
Yeah.
really was on any bad teams growing up, and I feel like that's helped me a lot because it's obviously going to college like that, like it's helped me have that mindset of like winning is the most important thing. There's nothing more important than winning. I feel like now there's a lot more than travel ball stuff. It's a lot more about how you do and the Instagram stuff and posting all that kind of stuff and, looking cool. But a lot of guys forget about, there's a winning aspect to this. And I think that's something that I've always been preached to by my coaches and, other players around me felt that same thing. It's like, hey, we want to win. If we're going to be here and put, our time and effort into this thing, like we got to win. I remember my dad used to always, tell my team like, hey, we're here, as parents for them, like we take our weekend, like we can be doing a lot of things on the weekends for you guys. And, we're here playing baseball for you. So like, don't take this light. Like, not everybody has the opportunity to have parents who are willing to do this, or have the money, or whatever the circumstances may be to be able to do this be on a weekend and go play in Austin for the weekend and have two games on Saturday and try to play and win a championship late at night and turn around and drive home and your parents wake up in the morning and go to work the next day. And as a kid, you take those things for granted. You don't really realize what they're doing for you. But as you grow up, you're like, wow. I remember growing up, like, my dad would go to work at 5, 6 in the morning. I wouldn't be up yet. I didn't have school till about 7:30 or 8. I'd wake up, I wouldn't see him. He'd go to work all day. I'd go to school, come back, rush home, get out of his work clothes, change in his baseball stuff, and we'd drive an hour to practice. And then he'd be there all night with me. And then we get home, and I'm like, does this guy ever? I thought for a really long time, like, I don't think my dad sleeps. So there's no way he has enough time and energy. Like, this guy just never sleeps. Like, he's a vampire. Like, he's literally up from 5, and I swear he's up to like 1 in the morning because he's gets home, you got other stuff you need to do, and you have family stuff, whatever you need, got going on. I'm like, this guy never sleeps. Like, how does he sleep? How does he find the energy for this? So, growing up, you never really think about that. But looking, I'm obviously a lot older now. I'm like, my dad, even my mom too. She was out helping with staying up late with schoolwork. After we get back from practice, she makes sure we have food and help us do our homework real quick before we go to bed. Like, they were both just grinders. You don't really take that in consideration when you're a kid. But as you get older, you're like, wow, they did a lot for me and stuff like that. So yeah, but like going back to the sports stuff, but yeah, I think I was really blessed. So high school, I was on a really good team. My freshman and sophomore year. My freshman year, I want to say we lost like in the third round. I didn't play that year. I was sliding in the base and I broke my index finger, so I didn't play. I came back at the very end of the year, but it was like a couple games and I ended up losing the playoffs. So my sophomore year for me was like a really big year because I hadn't played in probably 2 or 3 months because I hadn't my finger was broken. So I missed a little bit of summer, but then that next fall, I did some like the perfect game stuff and stuff like that. And that next sophomore year in high school, we had a really strong team. Let's say we had like 6 or 7 guys that were D1, a couple of JUCO guys, a couple of guys that were D2. So for high school, that's really good. Sometimes you're lucky with 1 or 2 guys are good stuff for high school, especially in Texas. Texas is a huge state, and it's a really popular area with a lot of really good players around the city. So we made it all the way to regional finals. I'm trying to think, regional. Yeah, we went all the way to regional finals, and we lost. And that's still to this day, like when anyone talks about that, like that bothers me so much. Like
Oh yeah.
anyone, I've talked to a couple guys who were on the team that we played. They were called Deer Park. We ended up playing like in college and stuff like that. And they always bring that up. And nothing bothers me more than like when people have an edge on you. Even like when you were talking about A&M or like being tense, like nothing bothers me more than someone having like a little bit of an edge. Like, because you can't say anything. Like, you just got to wear it, man. They beat you. You can't, obviously you hope to be in a spot
Yeah.
where you can let somebody know, but I'm not sometimes, and you lose. So I'm in that spot where I get in that spot where I'm like, oh, this is really bothers me. I kind of really try to avoid talking to those people sometimes because like I do not want to hear this right now. This is the last thing I need to talk about.
Well, I mean,
Um,
I'm gonna cut you off really quick. Like I gotta cut in really quick, man. I've had several edges on you in NCAA football, but
uh,
you still no matter what, no matter if I win or you win, it doesn't matter. Like you're still gonna say something.
oh
Like
yeah,
that's
for
that's
sure. I'm still gonna talk some trash. I'm never gonna let you just walk over me. I'm gonna talk some trash every time. I can tell you there was a fluke, no doubt.
no, that's the best. But keep going, man. So yeah, so you break your index finger, you lose in the regional, so you get to your sophomore year.
Yeah, I get to my sophomore year. We have a really good team. So we lost in the regionals. So then, like that next, like these are times. I had just committed to Texas that fall. So in high school, it's a big thing. Like, oh my gosh, you got a young kid. It's and at that time when growing up, not a lot of guys, honestly, that I remember were committing at a young age. A lot of guys, committed their junior summer, like the senior year in the fall and stuff like that. So I was one of the first guys I truly remember that committed at 15 years old, and it was kind of like a super kind of taboo thing for me growing up. Like I had the news come to my high school and talking to me about it, and people were writing articles like that. So for me, it was kind of like almost a little bit overwhelming because like I just wanted to go play baseball, and I knew that Texas was my dream school growing up as a kid, and like they offered me, I was going to Texas, and that's really all I thought of. I didn't really think anything else, but I had all this kind of like outside noise that came in, from other schools or other people and stuff like that, and then
Yeah.
I think I kind of had to learn, in those like in that time, like okay, people are gonna start, chanting UT sucks at you. People are gonna start chanting overrated, all that kind of stuff that goes into, being a little bit of a better player at a younger age or just being a better spot than some others, that kind of like adversity and just the things that come with it, you kind of realize that, okay, this is a little bit, different.
Yeah.
That I had to do with a lot of that stuff, at high school games and stuff like that. But those are things you embrace as a competitor and stuff like that. You want people to think that because you don't want to go out there and just go through the motions. You want something to bring you some sort of fire in the game or some sort of energy to extra little motivation. So I enjoy when people bring that because I feel like that really brings the best out of you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So you commit to Texas. Yeah, man, that's awesome. I think that's another big thing that people don't really think about, man, is there's always a price to it, and
Yeah,
there's always that little bit of extra expectation. But no, there's that saying that I believe, is just so resounding, especially if I heard it in high school and when I was younger, when I first originally committed to, because I was committed to Virginia, same thing. I was committed early in my sophomore year of high school, and it was that same thing in high school games. Like you strike out, and you start hearing the overrated chants, you start hearing UVA sucks or
yeah,
whatever, and it at 16 years old, man, or I didn't know how to handle it the best, man, and I didn't. It definitely took time to grow into being able to just kind of laugh about it and chirp back and all that stuff. But that saying that pressure is a privilege is the most accurate saying I think I've ever
yeah,
learned. And just being able to handle it and be able to just look at it and be like yeah, man, like you wish you could be in this situation, but you're not.
exactly,
And
right,
like somebody committed to like I don't know some D3 or some just random middle of nowhere bottom tier JUCO is letting you hear about it, and you're like, bro, what are you getting
oh,
on
no
for,
doubt.
dog?
There's a lot of that.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, man, no, it's so true. So you definitely had, I would say, like a very decorated high school career. You go into your junior year, you have you win MVP honors of your team. You go to the PG All American showcase. You make that, or the national showcase. You make the PG All American game. You're on the Team USA team again. You go to area code. I believe you went to area code your sophomore year as well. You're playing
Yeah.
all 9 positions on your team. So what? Just take us through just your experiences of your junior year, man, because for those who don't know, in high school baseball, if you're a very very highly touted prospect, that's a big year for you, and if you do really well, it most certainly puts you even further on the map, and it definitely makes your college more inclined to get you to campus and get you even more opportunities if you don't select to go to pro ball. So just talk us through your junior year of high school, your junior summer, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so like you said, in the junior year, that summer going into your senior years, like you said, a super important one, especially for the draft and stuff like that for the following year. So my junior year, just got done with high school. I had like the perfect game stuff, and my team was really good. So we played in the biggest summers, all the college scouts and stuff like that there. So like I said, I went to PG National, did really well, made PG All American, did area codes, did well again. And at that time, I was also pitching. I used to, I pitched in high school, so
Yeah.
at that time it was like a really big, debate. Like, okay, is he a pitcher? Is he a position player? And I truly didn't know. You know, like the game's so up and down. I had my days where I pitched really good, pitched really bad. I had my days where I was, hit really good and had hit bad. Like the game's so up and down. So like me personally,
Right.
I truly looking back at it, I didn't know what I wanted to do. You know, if that had been the first pick and they wanted me to pitch, I would pitch. If they wanted me to be the first pick, I'd have been the hitter, I'd have hit. Like I was really so indecisive, and I truly didn't know what I wanted to do. And I think that's kind of what led to me getting to college, which I'll get in that second. But like I
Right.
said, my junior year, so PG All American, did good, did all the area code, everything that you could want to do, I did it. So I've walked all the walks of life, and in the showcase era and the travel ball circuit, all that kind of stuff. And then that fall, so my senior year fall, did the Jupiter, the big tournament in the fall. Same thing, a lot of scouts there. I did well, pitched and hit, did well with both. And then that November, it was during Christmas time or Thanksgiving. I was on the USA team again, and we played in Panama, one goal. And I think that's one like the first moments I'd say like where I start to feel like guys are a little bit different level than I was. Like guys are just a little bit better, and there were some things I need to get better at my game because I'm trying. Our infield was like at third base was Yo-Yo Morales. Went to Miami. I want to say he's a third rounder or something like that. In Double A. Shortstop was Bobby Witt, which no explanation need on that one. Second base was Anthony Volpe. C.J. Abrams was actually playing center field. He's a shortstop for the Nationals. I was playing right field. Uh, Pete Pro Armstrong also played center field. Dylan Cruz also played left field. Drew Romo played catcher, and we had like three first rounders that were pitchers. Like we're talking about, like that's a big like those
9 big
all those
leaguers,
guys.
10 big leaguers.
Corbin Carroll was on that team. Corbin Carroll was at DH and played first base and played outfield. Like I mean, I'm literally with like guys that are top 10 picks. Like that's when I started to realize, okay, like I'm good, but there's a different level of good that I need to get at, and that's when I kind of started to realize, like, okay, like guys are a little bit better than me. I need to get better, and there's still a lot that I can improve on. So that experience was, really good for me. I got to, like I said, play with all those guys. And like I said about the position, I played, infield, I played outfield. I also was our closer. Like I was kind of everywhere. Like I did, a lot
Yeah.
of things. So I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was good at pitching. I threw hard and all that kind of stuff. Had good pitches like that, and obviously hitting those good infielder, good outfielder. I can do whatever you need me to do.
Right.
So I did all that and performed well and did well, and now it's like going to my senior year, like high school baseball season, where like okay, this is like my last chance for pro scouts to see me or whatever for the draft and get ready for the year. So I played well, pitched well, and then the season went on. We did okay. We weren't really that great. High school wasn't really that great, but we did okay. Made a couple round playoffs. We lost, whatever, and leading up to the draft, had a lot of like those in-home visits and stuff that you do,
Right.
with your analyst scout or whatever. And I want to say I met with close to everybody, if not all, if I can remember correctly. And then the big question for me obviously was like, okay, what do you want to do? I would tell him like, honestly, I don't know what I want to do. If you told me I could go play shortstop tomorrow, I'd go play shortstop. Like, if you told me I'd pitch. Like, it's just so 50-50. And I think that's what a lot of I'd ask this guy like, what do you see me as? And I would say half set pitcher, half set hitter. So it was everyone was kind of a toss up. Like we see you both. So for me, I felt like you know at that time, I really wanted to go pro and be a professional athlete. Be the guy that was went pro out of high school. But at that time, knowing what I know now about pro ball and the things I needed to develop and stuff like that, that wouldn't have been the best route for me, and that wouldn't have worked for me. And I truly think that there's a lot of guys that fit in that category, which is completely fine. There's guys that need college. I was a guy that needed college. I was still
Yeah.
a little bit younger, and didn't really know what I was doing. It's like that, and I needed college. There's guys that are there's obviously you see high school guys like a Holiday, Jackson Holiday, like those guys are ready. They know what it takes. They're ready for that kind of stuff. Where I wasn't necessarily ready, which is not a bad thing. Guys look at that like they don't get drafted out of high school. They don't necessarily get drafted where they want to, and they kind of think as if they're not that good, or they didn't expect certain things. And for me, it was a really good thing that I went to college, and I went to college, and that was the best 3 years of my life, man. If anybody knows me, they know how much I love being at Texas and being at Texas Longhorn. That's like the dream I had growing up, and thankfully
Right.
I had my parents that were pushing me in that direction too. Like they really thought that I needed to go to college, and they weren't trying to push me to be like, no, you need to go pro or any of that kind of stuff. So looking back, man, going to Texas was the best decision by far I could have ever made.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, it definitely, I mean, every time I saw on social media, man, I mean, it called you the kid. Like it looked like a really, really just good thing for you. And you talked a little bit about making that decision to go to college, go to the University of Texas, as opposed to going to professional baseball. So what ultimately led you to that decision? Because I remember when I was in high school and I was put in those same shoes, I mean, if the COVID draft, I was a part of that COVID 5 round draft, and where I was supposed to go was kind of right outside of those top 5 rounds, and I would have been a guy that had to have been paid well over slot in that kind of 5 to 10 range, or like a day 3 kid that gets paid way above slot, and that didn't happen. And I remember being so pissed off, and I remember thinking, kind of what like everybody does, like you think you're better than everybody on that list, and you're like, this is ridiculous, whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
go to college. And obviously for me, it was the best thing that ever could have happened to me. Like I grew up, like you become a man in college.
Right.
You're not a
Sure.
kid anymore. And I see that in pro ball where, I still go through, like we still go through all the failures and adversities just like every other kid, but it's like I don't know how, like there's no way I would have lasted, 5 months in pro ball if I was coming out of high school.
for sure.
So how did you ultimately come to that decision?
Yeah, so like I said, the draft, days coming up, and in my mind, obviously, I'm super big into like, everything happens for a reason. Like those gut feelings, and just go on your gut feeling because that's what you feel is right. That's just me personally. I always trust my gut feeling because I feel like I'll never go wrong.
Right.
And maybe not work, right there in that instant, but eventually things will work out how they're supposed to. And like I said, everything happens for a reason. That's how I've always, viewed things. And that's how I'm a firm believer of that.
Yeah.
Um, so, leading up to a couple days of the draft, I'm hanging out the house, just kind of anxious, the draft's about to happen. I'm kind of anxious, not really hearing things from the teams or anything like that. Yeah, shoot. I'm just waiting. And I remember draft day coming, and a couple teams called me. They're like, "Hey, we want you to, we think about picking you here and here. Like, what do you think about, this number, whatever?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'm interested, but like to pitch, to hit, and they're like to pitch." And then like I had that feeling like, like pitching. I don't want to pitch, like I didn't want to give up playing shortstop or playing center field. Like that's what and then in my head, that's when I started knew like, okay, I really want to lock in on being a hitter and not pitching because like this is what I feel that I want to do. And the
Yeah.
teams that kind of offered me, early rounds or whatever, it was more for pitching. And I was like, I had that feeling like, ooh, I don't want to pitch. Like I don't want to just pitch. I don't want to be a PO, So I feel like I was super athletic and versatile, and like PO just wasn't it wasn't me.
Yeah.
So like when I started to hear that, and I kind of had that feeling in my gut, like, nah, that's not what I want to do. Like, and then I ended up getting drafted by the Red Sox later in rounds, but it's kind of like a courtesy pick kind of thing. And this is my last draft year in high school. The last year they had the 40 round, draft, whatever. So, the opportunities were a little bit different. A lot more picks and stuff like that for teams and players. But yeah, so I kind of that. I think the first day went by, the second day went by, or the second day that's when I started to get calls like that, and I just knew in my heart like I didn't want to give up hitting. So that's when I told teams like, I'm going to school basically. And then like I said, the Red Sox picked me up kind of like a courtesy pick, but then that. So after that, the draft happened, whatever. I don't sign, and I'm announced on Twitter, whatever, like, hey, I'm going to Texas, and then that's
Right.
when things really started to get serious. And I think the best thing that for us is that Texas had us go to summer school, so I got to school a little bit earlier than everybody else, like student wise.
Yeah.
We got to go to school, work out, start a little bit of summer classes like that, which was I feel like for me a lot easier to kind of get into the college life and
Right.
manage my way into being a college athlete because things were just a little bit slowed down. There wasn't as many people on campus. There was no, in the fall you had the football games. There's nothing crazy going on yet, so I kind of got to know my way around, the school and the city and all that kind of stuff, and kind of understand the grind a little bit before I had to really get into the grind with school starting. So like I said, I went to summer school, and then um, the best thing that probably ever happened was I'll never forget this. They were sitting in the we just had finished weights, and we're sitting in the locker room, watching TV or whatever. And, um, they announced Troy Tulowitzki announced his retirement on baseball, and then like the next day, he's out of school, like at the field. And obviously, you're a Colorado guy, but I grew up a huge baseball guy. Like I can tell you every player ever. Like we play a game all the time with different guys that you don't remember. So like Troy Tulowitzki, I'm like, wow, like could potentially be a coach. Like that's gonna be sick. Obviously, you don't know him a whole lot. You never met the guy, but like just as a player, like you gotta know, okay, that's gotta be something that if that were to happen would be a really cool situation for me. So then, like 2 days later, Julie became the assistant coach, and right then in that moment, I'll never forget it. My dad texted me, and he said, "Did you see who's the new coach?" And I said, "Yeah, I did. That's super cool." And he said, "You're exactly where you need to be, shortstop, or someone that was kind of trying to figure out what they wanted to do." And that time I went to Texas, they wanted me to play short, or earn the spot to try to be a shortstop. And then you have a potentially Hall of Fame shortstop coming into your life as you're getting in
Yeah.
school. Like the stars just kind of aligned, and that's when I knew that I had made the right decision. Like, okay, this is where I should have been the whole time. This is where I needed to be the whole time.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah. That's definitely how it works out, man. Is you don't realize it's the old scripture of you may not know what I'm doing, but later you'll understand.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's just for things that happen as quickly as that, it's really cool to see. So that's awesome. And you and I have talked about it a lot. Like I grew up, obviously I went to A&M, so I don't want to speak too highly of them, but but I'm from Colorado. I'm from Denver, and man, I literally grew up, going to all those games at Coors Field with my dad. And before every game, I'd be down there with my ball and my Tulo jersey on, man. And he'd come up and sign it just about every time. So I still have pictures of it. So that's a really cool deal, man, that you got to be able to experience that. So yeah, I was actually um, kind of going off that. Just my next question would just be, how was your experience with Tula? Obviously, he came in, and you think that everything's where it needs to be and everything's set up, but unfortunately, a lot of people think that in order to be a really good coach, you have to be a really good player, and it doesn't always work like that. And a lot of the best coaches that I've ever played for, been coached by,
Never
were,
played.
were terrible players or never
Yeah,
played. And so and I think the reason for that is I think a lot of guys that made it really big and were really successful at what they do, they get an ego and they think that it's their way or the highway, and they can't be able to adapt to the player and the situation that it calls for. And I think that's such a big part of being a good coach, is being able to get into the mental side and understand what works for a player mentally, and then so you can apply it to the physical side. And from what you've told me, I know your experience with Tulo, but I want to hear from you how Troy Tulowitzki impacted your career.
man. Tulo's, to this day, and I have nothing. If anyone ever asks me about Tulo, I'll have nothing but positive things to say about him. He's, like a second dad, or like a big brother to me, man. He really took me under his wing, that my freshman year, and I think he could tell that I really loved baseball. And the one thing about Tula is that if you don't really love baseball, like you don't, if he can't tell that you like, are bought in, like you really love this game, he probably won't like you a whole lot. And that's just how he is, which is, that's how a lot of the people that really love baseball, that's how a lot of us are, man. We don't like people that aren't, fully bought in on baseball, or, not really committed to the sport and want to truly get better and know the ins and outs of the game. And I think he could tell that, as a young kid, I was, anything he said was like, gospel to me. He could have told me to hit my hands on the barrel and hit with the other side, I'd have done it. Like anything he told me, I was doing it, So, I took every word he said, and like for him, he could have even told me one thing, but for me, that went so much farther than he probably ever thought it would or think it does. Like
Yeah,
he could have told me, he told me one thing, and I know everything he's ever told me is right here. I will never forget anything he's ever told me. And just the relationship that we built, over those 3 years, especially my first year, obviously competing for a side shortstop, and then, um, you know, so once I, got the chance to, become that starting shortstop, I think he kind of opened up to me a little bit more on a different level, just because he obviously, knows the grind of what it's like to be shortstop, knows, positioning and all the things that I had never even heard about or thought about up until that point, that really opens your eyes to a different way of the game, and how the game's played at an elite level like he played it.
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it went as far as you using his glove, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, that so that's a funny story. How I got his glove is not a good thing, to be honest. We were taking ground balls one day, and I just like, for whatever reason, like I had this Rawlings there that I used in high school, and like it just kept like hitting my heel and like popping up, and like I just kept bobbing the ball. Could never like catch it cleanly. And it happened for a couple of days straight, and he just, trying to work me through it. And then, one day he basically just had enough of it. And he, for lack of better words, just throws me the glove and says, "Hey, use this glove because it won't have any drops in it." And I kind of the time it was kind of a joke for me. I'm like, all right, I got to use this glove. And it's kind of like a wow, I got to use this glove now, whatever. And I had the gold. It's like one of his old, not old, but backup gloves. And they had brand new fresh gold label on it. The tags, the gold label on the side of the Rawlings. Because TT2. I was like, this thing is so sick. And I mean, I don't remember missing a ball for 2 months after that. Like it was unbelievable. Like I was like, this glove feels great. Like I don't know what it is, but it feels great. So then, a couple days later, I try to give it back. So I'm like, hey, he's like, no, you got to keep it now. Like I've never seen you play defense that good, so you got to keep it. So then it turned into me, using his glove, and you know, I had to, use his glove, and it became a big thing once the season started. That wow, taking pictures or whatever. People were like, whose glove is that? And like, it's Tulo's, and then it became a huge thing. I had glove, people hitting me up on Instagram, like, hey, can you send us a picture of that glove? It's a sick glove. Like, we've never seen a glove, what, like in that condition. And then it became a whole different monster. So it was pretty cool. And I still have a glove, and I'll never, if my house burned down, I'd run in to get that glove.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
So going So you have, and then our paths overlapped a little bit. You get Coach Flo. This is kind of the first time that we have a mutual connection. Caleb Longley, he was my, I don't want to say assistant hitting coach. I'm not really sure what his role was at Arizona State to this day, but he basically was he helped with our hitters with Coach Mike Hurley, who's now the head coach at A&M when we were at ASU. So then that coaching staff gets let go. Everybody kind of, I don't want to say scrambles, but for lack of better words, we'll go with it. Scrambles all over the place. Caleb ends up with you at Texas. Mike ends up at A&M, and now Caleb is back with Mike at A&M. He's the official hitting coach there now. So you have these two that speak a little more about Caleb here, just in terms of his role in your development, but just those two and how they helped you just kind of just work and get better. So you have Tulo. Honestly, to me, would have been a Hall of Famer had he not gotten injured. And then you got this new guy, this new coach, who I learned a ton from, and I wouldn't be the hitter I am today without him. But just can you talk to us about Caleb and his role in terms of your development?
Yeah, Caleb was huge. Like you said, he came from Arizona State. You had that little. So this is after my freshman year, that COVID year, he came back, and you had that little, kind of transition phase of like, getting to know someone, and like especially with hitting, like it's hard to just buy into what someone says. You kind of
Right.
want to figure them out a little bit first, and see what they got, and see what parts of what they know can help you. That after that kind of phase, I really loved Caleb. And he was like, kind of like Tulo, like someone that know the game, played the game, and knew what they were talking about, and someone that wanted to see you, really get better. And you can always appreciate people like that. So Caleb, was, like I said, one of our hitting coaches. It was him and Tulo kind of like together. So anytime, and it's a good thing for me personally because sometimes what works for someone doesn't always work for them. So sometimes Tulo would tell me something that wouldn't really register with me, but Caleb had another way of saying that same thing, and it registered with me. So to have both of them kind of bouncing ideas off each other and talk about different things was a huge help. And obviously not just me but the whole team. I feel like we really got better from both of them. And Caleb was a huge help. And yeah, Coach Flo, man, he's a one of a kind guy, and he was always there. Anytime before a game, you need an extra little BP before you have your in and out, whatever. You wanted to kind of just hit a little bit again.
Right.
Flo was always there to throw to you and tell you something, to give something about the picture that he saw on video, or something he sees mid game. He'd walk by and be like, hey, think about this. Next at bat, and those are things you love. Those little in game adjustments that people are really trying to look for, and the coaches are bought in and like, okay, they're really trying to figure out. Obviously, in the downtime of practice or whatever, but even in the game too, man. That Caleb and Tulo were always, super locked in, and if they saw something, they'd always, have a little meeting with whoever it is, or a team, little quick hitters meeting, like, hey, I see this, let's try to do this, whatever, and make a kind of in-game adjustment. So you learn so much from guys like that, and you definitely appreciate those guys. And those are people in my life that I still text to this day asking what you see on this, or what do you got on that,
Yeah.
or what's something you can get help me get me better at this, or whatever it is. So
No doubt. Yeah. So you get done with your 3 years. Well, I guess we'll call it 3 years. Technically 2.5, just with the COVID year. But
right.
So you get done with your 3 years at Texas. You go to Omaha twice. You have a great career there. You're a UT legend, a Longhorn legend. So you go to. It's 2022. And it's your draft year, and you're right back in the situation that you were in 3 years ago, just much more mature, much more developed. You're obviously not a pitcher anymore. You're a shortstop, and you can play anywhere on the diamond. You get done in Omaha, and then the question kind of becomes up again, and it's, I don't know. You and I have talked a little bit about it, but the I don't want to say the severity of the decision, but in terms of if you were undecided in terms of whether you were going to go or stay. And so you end up going, you sign in the 7th round for a bunch of money. You get picked by the Cincinnati Reds. You have a great start to your professional baseball career. Just kind of walk us through that decision. Just walk us through what it meant, what Texas meant to you. I know you touched on it a little bit. You don't have to get into it too much, but and then that decision to not go back for that 4th year and to start your professional baseball career.
Yeah, man, that decision was really difficult for me, honestly, man. Like I said, I love Texas, and um, you know, it was really, really hard for me to decide to leave. And honestly, I hadn't really decided if I wanted to leave until the day I got drafted. I was still 50-50. I was really considering going back to Texas. I wanted to go back to Texas, but at the same time, I really wanted to, I felt what was right for me was to go to my pro career.
Right.
So I had kind of those, those both in my head, and obviously I was going to, see what happened with the, draft and see where teams saw me fit, and I think what's a huge game changer now is the NIL in college, so they, I had NIL stuff that was going to
Yeah.
help me out if I came back. But for me, like I felt that like I said, I had that gut feeling that I just need to go play pro ball and start my career, so like that. So like I said, got drafted by the Reds. Get shipped out to Arizona. Get kind of concussed and everything, and then I go play in Daytona Beach, which is a low way for the Reds. I do pretty well. I play shortstop, short and second, but a lot more shortstop, and I do pretty well to start my year or start my career. I mean, and things are looking pretty good for me, and I'm making what I believe is like the right steps. So spent that all season making adjustments, trying to get better, whatever, and then so my next year, which will be my first full year, I go to
So
high.
I'll cut you off right there. So we'll just kind of we'll get into this next part, which is just kind of your professional baseball career. So we'll go summer of 2022 to now, so to present. So that's a 2 hour, or excuse me, a 2 year gap, a little over 2 years. So you come in, you do fine, and everything's looking good, right? I mean, you're Swiss Army knife defender. You have a 70, 80 arm, and play all over the diamond. You're the kind of guy that's going to hit at the top of the order. And you got juice, and it was really, you kind of are working on the bat to ball a little bit. So you really kind of have a plan, right? You have a plan that 2022 to 2023 off season. You have a good illustration of where you want to go, what you want to do, and it's easy, right? Like it's just going to work like that. I mean, you got
Yeah,
it figured out. So then so then 2023 happens, right? And you and I have talked a lot about this. And so you go in, you go to high A. So you go to spring training, you go to high A, and so you play a little bit, and then you get hurt. And I believe it was what, 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks.
yeah. I was like, I came back in about 5, but it was truly about 7 weeks that I really needed. But I wouldn't say rushed. I just got done a little bit faster and kind of was like not fully 100%, but I was just eager to play again. So like I said, yeah, went to high, played maybe like a month or so, 3 weeks, a month, and I pulled my oblique. Up to this point, I've never really been seriously hurt to miss time. It's always been little bumps and bruises, but you find a way to play the game.
Right.
But I've never had it something where I physically could not play. So this is like a huge challenge and kind of like a mental thing that I had to go through. Like okay, like rehab and get through this and try to get myself back into shape in the middle of the season to get back to play baseball. So like I said, it
Right.
took like probably I'd say I took about 5 weeks, but after those 5 weeks, I still kind of felt my oblique a little bit. It wasn't really 100%. I was probably like 80, 90%. But, it's one of those things where, you want to be back on the field. So you're doing anything you can to be back on the field. If it's not, your best, you're going to give it what you got. So I get back and kind of, struggle getting back. My swing doesn't feel great. I feel like my bat speed's not there. And I kind of just, played terrible, honestly. I played bad. Um, and it became, started playing less and less. I wasn't playing good, but when you don't play good, you're not gonna play. Simple as that. So that became like a super mental, you know, challenge or block for me that things are not going my way. I'm getting my ass handed to me every single day when I do play, and I'm just, kind of miserable. I just got done getting hurt. I'm not playing. Like, I'm in Ohio. I'm kind of just sitting here watching baseball. Like, this sucks, kind of thing. I started probably feeling a little bit sorry for myself and just not how I envisioned it going for myself,
Yeah.
So, that was, I'd say, looking back during the time, it really, really sucked, but it was kind of something that I needed. I needed, to get that refresher of like what it feels like to get kicked down. Because for the last 5, 6 years, I've been, not necessarily on my high horse, but I've been playing good, doing everything I want to do, played in college, achieved goals, got drafted, played in Omaha twice. Like, I've been doing really good. I've never had truly a really adversity in a while, in a few years. So looking back at, on it now at this point in my life, it's like, you know, I really, really needed that. I really needed to get my ass handed to me and get kicked down and see if I truly wanted this. And like I told you, like if you truly want something and you have the passion and drive for it, you're gonna figure it out. So, like I said, so then, season ends and I'm really down on myself. Think have that feeling like I don't even want to play. I want to quit. Like this sucks. Like I got no chance. You know how those feelings get. I got no chance. I'm never gonna play again. Like I don't want to play baseball anymore. Kind of feeling. So year ends. Go back home and I'm kind of just like not in the mood to play baseball. I don't want to play baseball. Like I'm out. I'm over this. I don't want to do it. But then once again you find like I'm watching. I remember sitting down watching the playoffs and just like I still find myself really enjoying baseball. Even though I'm not playing, I'm like, I still love baseball. And I kind of just, you go through the, like, they always say like the ups and downs. Like I was probably super, super down. I just found a way to like get back up and kind of like, trick myself into thinking like, I can figure it out.
Yeah.
And I can get better, and I think that's one of the things you have to do. And obviously in baseball and more professional, just because it's so every day and so can be daunting on you at times. Like, you just got to roll with the punches, man. You got to figure out a way to like just kind of trick yourself into believing that you're gonna you're gonna go out there and get 3 hits today. You don't know how, you don't know when. Like you're just gonna find out. You're gonna figure it out somehow, some way. It's gonna happen, and you're gonna put your mind to
Yeah.
that. And that's the feeling that I kind of like battle every single day. So that whole offseason last year, I kind of spent made some swing adjustments and kind of was trying to find my way back into what I felt was best for me to get better and stuff like that, and then I got to spring training. And that's when we kind of, started talking. I obviously knew who you were being at A&M, like that. But that's when the first time I got to like truly sit down, meet you, and kind of talk to you a little bit more too.
So yeah, so we got to know each other, and so yeah, that off season happens, and the funny part is that during your time in 2023, I come in, and that was when I got drafted, and I was like, and I hit over 300 in that stint where I was in pro ball and in Daytona and rookie ball, and I was like, and I go to Instructs, and I was like, all right, like I got this figured out. Like this is easy. Like this is no problem. I did it in the SEC. Like this is a breeze. And then I make a few swing adjustments in the offseason. I go to like, I go and kind of talk to like 4 or 5 different hitting coaches, 3 or 4 different movement guys. Just I made it way too complicated because I'm like, okay, like I got to do this. So I get to spring training. And bro, I think I hit like 130, like if that. And I was with the high A group, and I even got some double AABs. And I went up, and I was like, I was just getting destroyed. And then I get put back with kind of the Daytona group, and I was still getting destroyed. And I was like, dude, what happened? Like this is insane. And part of that too is just the nature of the game, and it's just a really hard game.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
It definitely was, yeah, for me too. It was like that, and this is why I bring this up is because we met each other. It seemed like kind of at the perfect time where it was like we're both kind of figuring it out. We're both kind of learning our own way. So I get assigned to Daytona Beach. You get assigned to Daytona Beach, and we're like, all right, like let's room together. Screw it, like let's do it. And we go on the road, and for you also too, that was the other interesting thing that we didn't really harp on was the fact that you went to low A from high A because they wanted you to learn a new position that you haven't played a lot in a while, which was center field or outfield. So we go in that situation, and you and I are not playing at all. Like literally, you and I are joking around, like we're just like in the dugout, just watching the games, just playing like the name game and or like whatever we can to watch these games and pass time when we're still being good teammates. Obviously, nobody would take that away from us, but it sucked. Like I was, and like you said, man, it was like like I'm just never gonna forget this feeling. Like I'm never I like whatever happens the rest of my baseball career. Like I know how hard I'm gonna work, literally because of this feeling that we have right now, and. So yeah, man, so we're both just kind of going through it. We're kind of figuring our way. And so kind of talk to us about this last year because, you started off, so when you were playing, you were started off great and then you hit a little bit of a lull. And then there was like that month and a half stretch where it was kind of back to, not playing a whole lot, and then you finish and you killed it. So walk us through kind of the different segments of the 2024 year.
Yeah, so like you said, spring training comes out and they basically tell me like, hey, we wanted to find you ways to get more at bats, and we want you to think about, or we're open, or want you to play center field. So, I want to play. I love shortstop, but playing to me is more important. So I'm like, anything I can do to get at bats. It's about playing. So anything I can do to get in the bat, to get at bats, and then be able to play. So I'm like, of course, I'm like, yeah, center field, no problem. So I go, Daytona, play center field. Start off, I'm playing play 3 or 4 times a week. I'm playing every day, or I'm playing pretty good at the time. And then, like I said, I hit a stretch where I just like, not playing that great, and things just aren't going my way, which is how baseball goes. And then I hit that, it kind of turned into like playing 1 time a week, 2 times a week, and that's when we kind of were in that same rut at the same time. And yeah, it was once again that feeling from the year before, like this sucks. I don't want to be here. Like you start feeling a little sorry for yourself, and that's when I think me and you kind of together kind of like made it a little bit better for each other. We like we had the Cancun crew. We joke around a lot and try to make the best out of the situation we had, and treat the practice and stuff like our games. And I always have sayings for things. So we had the rainbow bread. We had all kinds of stuff going on in practice, and trying to make light of the situation, and trying to
Yeah.
almost make a little bit of a joke out of it. Just embracing the sucking, I guess.
Yeah, it was the best one. The
So
best one, the Hall of Fame one, was going to. It's like going to church, baby. Playing once a week, just like going to
yeah, it's
church,
like
baby.
exactly, it's like going to church. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So like stuff like that. I mean, you joke about it now, but at the time, you really just like I talked about earlier, like you try to trick yourself into making it feel like
Yeah,
it's not as bad as it probably is, or you think it is. So I think that's one thing I learned, from the year before too, is like, all right, if I'm in a bad situation, I gotta almost, make a joke out of it, or trick myself into acting like it's not that bad. Just kind of like embrace sucking, like you gotta embrace
yeah,
that you suck, and like almost make a joke out of it, and like somehow, some way, like your mind just kind of like jokes about it, and you kind of like figure your way out back to your normal feelings, and you're playing. And yeah, so hit a stretch, not playing a lot, playing 1 time a week. When I play, I get carved. I'm just getting dominated.
yeah. Same
I
boat,
mean,
man.
getting dominated. I go play 1 time. In my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, I've been waiting all week for this. I'm about to kill somebody. Like I'm about to light the world on fire. Like it's over for this pitcher today. And I get carved. I go up there and don't even swing the bat and strike out in 3 pitches, kind of thing. Like I'm just getting dominated. And so I was like, this sucks. So then I'd say probably All-Star break, right before All-Star break, me in the hotel room, we're about to go grab dinner with some of the guys, and um, I kind of asked you some questions about what you think about hitting, and I think at this time you start to this maybe a couple of weeks before me, or before this, start to play again. You are just tearing the cover off. You literally can't get out. Like you're hitting a line drive over the shortstop's head, or you're getting jammed and it's right up the middle. Like you literally can't get out. It's literally a perfect line. I could line drive over the middle, line drive over the shortstop. Like this guy could not do that. It was unbelievable. I'm like, this guy literally is the best hitter ever. This guy's literally Tony Gwynn up there. Like it's ridiculous. Doesn't strike out and just literally hits a line drive every time. So obviously, I'm happy for you. You're getting back, a chance to showcase what you got and the things you've been working on, and it's going good for you. So now I'm kind of by myself in there. Obviously, trying to work with you throughout the things, whatever. And remember one night we go at the hotel. We kind of just started talking about some hitting things, and it was going into that All-Star break. So I wasn't playing. Obviously, I wasn't playing, so I had just days like just feel it out in the cages and like just kind of go off different fields and like, okay, how does this look?
Right.
How does this look? And I remember you sitting there and kind of just telling me different things. And, I have videos on my phone of us in the hotel room doing swings in the middle of the night and stuff like that. It's like,
Yeah, I have them too with the pillow. We have a
yeah,
bat and a pillow, and the pillow's the ball. That's what we're
yeah,
going with.
I'm hitting the pillow with the bat, and I'm doing all kinds of crazy things. I'm in my boxes in the middle of the night, going through my swing in the middle of the dark. Like it's just we're doing crazy stuff just to because I'm like, oh wait, what about this? I get up off the bed, and how it was. It was hilarious looking back at it, but like it's funny, but like at the same time, like it really helped because I really found some good feels. I thought in the hotel room, and like so All-Star break happens, you go home, and I kind of think about it and kind of dive into some video and stuff like that and see where like okay, like I see where what he's talking about and like what he looks like and what he feels, and how can I implement that into my game.
Right.
Um, and then I come back and kind of just I'm, always being ready for opportunity. Someone got hurt. I think someone got caught up, and then someone got hurt, and I got kind of put into a role. I got put in was it second base, right? Yeah, I was playing
Second.
second base. Um, you know, I had a couple good games. I came back. It was like a 2-3, and then 2 to 3 times a week I was playing. And I had a couple good games and had some really nice at bats against some pretty good pitchers. And then I kind of just tricked myself and found, like I said, found that way back into being an everyday kind of guy. And I played second base, and I mean, I had that same feeling. I literally like couldn't not hit the ball. Anything I hit
Yeah.
was a double or a backside single or a home run. Like it was,
Homer. Yeah.
yeah, it was unbelievable. And kind of everyone, we had some jokes and stuff on the bench. The guys, put booby in and stuff like that. All kinds of the black snapper, like all kinds of crazy
Yeah.
nicknames that that came from that. Which it's funny now, but the thing that you really feel like you try to have like that mindset that I'm about to overcome this and I'm about to
Yeah.
find my way and find my way to I'm gonna will myself to win basically, and that's kind of what I felt like happened. I kind of just was ready for myself, and um, I remember at that time I was on Instagram or something, and I saw like a scripture. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it said something like God will put you in the right. God will put you in the times you need to be there in the right moments. So I felt like I wasn't ready at that time to be playing at that time early
Yeah.
in that summer, and then I made some swing adjustments, and then coincidentally, like I was making the right swing adjustments, and I was really feeling myself, and had a chance to showcase that with more opportunities to play, and it just
Yeah.
kind of was a perfect timing for both, and it really blossomed, and I kind of just like you said, I took off, and I won Player of the Week, and I started playing really well, and that's kind of like the separated like in two halves of the season. I have like the first half where things weren't going my way, and I felt like it's just gonna be another wasted season almost, and then it's baseball thing. Anything can happen. Baseball things turn around so fast, and boom, I was playing every day, and playing well, and then getting called back up to high A, and I go back to high A at the end of the year.
Yeah. And I mean, it was just fun to watch. Like it was gratifying. Like, and also too, like I also just want to say this just for anybody listening. Like when we were working on those things, the only that had nothing to do with me. Like I was just a messenger for the things that I had people teach me. It was just like Trey's willingness and openness to understand and accept things that maybe were foreign, or I don't want to say foreign, but just a different dialogue than maybe what he'd been accustomed to. Just because, I felt like when I was younger, I was in this boat of, just for baseball listeners, of kind of this old school thinking where, it works for a lot of people. And I'm not saying that all of it I disagree with, but there was just stuff that Trey had asked me about a couple times, and I just, told him. And I mean, with his athleticism and who he is as a baseball player, like it was easy for him. It was way easier than it was for me to figure out. And it happened like that. Like it happened. I mean, you're not lying. Like it literally seemed like a snap of the fingers in terms of how quickly it turned around, and just the things that you've taken from it. So, just going forward, and before we wrap this up, so what just for the next year that you can draw from the last 6, 7 years of your baseball career. So, say you're 18 years old again. It's 2019. It's June. It's like June 6th, right before the draft, and or whatever it was, and you get the opportunity to go back and talk to your younger self. What is the biggest thing that you tell him?
um, I probably start with like things happen for a reason. You're right. I'm a big believer now more than ever that no matter good or bad, you're right where you need to be. You're the things that happen to you happen for a reason. And you're right where you need to be, and whatever aspect, good or bad, you're right where you need to be, and things are going the way they're supposed to. I'm a big believer in that. So I'd say first things first. Right where you need to be. Whatever you're going through, or good or bad, you're right where you need to be, and don't lose sight of that. And the things that you want don't come easy.
Right.
I think that's not just me, but for everybody. Everyone wants that instant gratification. Like, okay, I want my swing to feel good right now. I want hits right now. I want get out of this slump right now. And it just doesn't work like that. It's baseball. It's never going to work like that. And I think that's something that um, at a young age I didn't necessarily understand, but right now, now obviously you're always gonna get better. You're never all the way there. But that's something I've done a lot better. I'm just understanding like things are I'm gonna suck for a month. I'm gonna suck for two. I'm gonna have bad stretches and I'm gonna have really good stretches. But I gotta learn to,
Yep.
waver through those and learn to have shitty days, but have a good shitty day. And I think
Yeah.
that's one thing before that I couldn't do. If I had a really good day, I had a really good day, but my shitty days were extremely shitty. I couldn't, make that, it's either here or here. There was no like middle ground where I just kind of, figuring it out and just making waves and figuring things out. It was either really good or really bad for me. And I think lately in the last, few months, I've learned how to just get better in this area. Not necessarily being up here, being here, because everyone has those, but I feel like this middle ground is where the good players stay a little bit better and the bad players stay a little bit worse. I
No
feel like
doubt.
that middle ground is where I've gotten a lot better at.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Trey, thanks for coming on, man. This is Approach Pod, Ep.6, Trey Faltine, Cincinnati Reds, shortstop, utility guy. All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, man.